murder charges in the shooting this week at the STEM school Highlands Ranch. They'll appear in court on Wednesday. One student was killed trying to stop the shooters, 8 others injured. As the community grapples with the horror of what happened, is there a chance it could have been prevented? That's a question. One parent contacted school officials 5 months ago, expressing concern about the potential for violence. She is remaining anonymous, but here's what she's telling CNN.
When you mix a pressure cooker environment where students are stressed out and overworked and they don't get enough sleep and they feel suicidal or they feel aggressive towards one another and they're not being disciplined for it, when you don't listen to parents' concerns, when you don't support teachers' concerns, when you don't give teachers the kind of training that they need or the support that they need, those are the elements that we need for the perfect storm.
Perfect storm. I want to bring in now Tom Bernay, a former New York City police detective, and also Jonathan Dahl, the author of Ending School Shootings. This is a really, really important conversation, and I'm so honored to have both you gentlemen on. Thank you so much for coming on to talk about this. Tom, I'm going to start with you. This woman describes what she said results in the perfect storm. She said that she heard reports of violence, sexual assault, and bullying. If she had come to you with that information, what would you have thought? What would you have done?
Good evening, Don, and my condolences to the families that are having to go through what we've seen too many times in this country, and we'll probably see more of, because, you know, whether you're talking about this nation being awash in guns all over the place, falling into the hands of people that shouldn't have them, if you're talking about the mental illness issue in this country that is largely still unaddressed, you know, there's signs all over the place, but yet.
What would you have done, though, if you had heard those as a, you know, you're a former detective? What would you have done?
Yeah, we have to take some action. I mean, people have to pay attention. People have to get their heads out of the sand. I mean, you can't look for leadership from the White House, because we already know that's a lost cause, right? So we would hope that you would get a top-down message that, you know, for people to pay attention to our kids and the messages that are coming from them to them. We live in a largely racist, sexist, homophobic, transphobic society. We know that. But yet those messages are just thrown by the wayside also. So when you have kids that are under pressure, like the kids of today are, being bullied, whether it be cyberbullying or just your old school classic bullying in school, the old-fashioned way, and those messages are gone left unchecked with the amount of guns that are available. If you have someone who goes by the wayside, they're going to find their way to those weapons and do a lot of damage.
Well,
we see it over and over and over again.
Well, Jonathan, there were multiple allegations concerning other issues in the school. Are these warnings being taken seriously enough? I mean, you wrote the book on this. What do you think?
Well, for starters, every threat needs to be taken seriously. And Tom, as a fellow New Yorker, I really respect your feelings and your opinions on all of this. I come from a perspective, though, that I want us to really talk about what support is going to look like, because for schools and districts out there, this is not a state issue, this is not a federal issue, this is really a school and a district issue. So when one parent makes an anonymous complaint of any nature, that needs to be thoroughly addressed by a school and or a district.
Yeah.
If the parent does not feel that it has been, I want to ask your opinion on this, Tom, but I really think that it's the responsibility of the parent to work with law enforcement, because we're talking here about crimes. We're not talking here about rule violations in schools, but crimes. Yeah. And if a school, and I would just say if, this is not substantiated, and what I read today on CNN actually said that the school painted a completely different picture of this story than we've discussed so far.
Okay, so listen.
Again, Tom, I just want to ask.
I want Tom to get in, but I have to get this statement in because, you know, in all fairness, right? So we don't want to paint a picture of unfairly at all. The school statement says, like any school with more than 1,800 students, we receive complaints, all of which we take seriously and investigate promptly. So the school's response is saying every school has issues. Their investigation yielded nothing,
whatever.
in this case.
Obviously
so
it
Tom,
didn't, but
respond to
they should have done more. They should have done more. They didn't do more.
Yeah. I mean, look, Don, throughout my career, you know, with the NYPD, I was a community policing officer / youth officer. I was in and out of schools all the time, involved with the youth programs that the NYPD has with kids. You know, if I had a hair in my head for every time that an allegation fell by the wayside, in a school and
Yeah.
within the school
They
district.
they always fall by the wayside.
Yeah, I would have a wig on my head at this point.
Yeah.
Schools don't want to have that heat on them.
No.
And a lot of these things do go unchecked. Investigations aren't real investigations half the time. So, regardless of what the socialization process of these children is from home or where they came from or who their friends are, the schools have these kids for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours a day.
Yeah.
And they have to be the final deciding factor as to how that child, or the teenager for that matter, what their life is like, and whether or not there's a pervasive, constant, tone of allowance of bullying with these kids.
Yeah.
Where
It's not, you can't allow it. You just can't fucking allow it. I don't know why they're not doing something about
Jonathan,
it.
if you can, before we run out of time here, I just want you to break down for us the warning signs people should look for and try to try to prevent something like this the next shooting.
So the FBI has made an incredible document that outlines 15 of these. They've been categorized, I've categorized them according to actions, behaviors, and circumstances. Actions are something that's one-off. These can be things like threatening notes, threatening gestures, threatening behaviors. It also could be talk about guns, could be drawing pictures of things. Behaviors are things that change over time. In other words, noticing that someone's drawing more and more disengaged, knowing that bullying behavior and or being a recipient of bullying behavior is growing over time. And circumstances, by and large, often are vengeance and humiliation oriented. And we live in an awful time period where the social media that we as adults feel is a safe thing to use in a lot of respects, but the reality is this is just a graveyard, a bone graveyard for children, because in 1 second their entire life can go from having all the kids in their world liking them to not liking them.
Yeah, in just
and
moments.
it's hypocritical sometimes. It's fake.
Yeah. Listen, I forgot to thank you, both Jonathan Dahl, Tom Burney, and we appreciate.
Thank you for taking this issue up. I
Absolutely.
look forward to more of this.
Thank you very much, and we appreciate you coming on, and we appreciate the efforts that both of you gentlemen make to try to combat this. Thanks so much. We'll be right back.
Thank you, Tom.